Yeah, let's go.
All right, what a whirlwind. I was eating dinner and now I'm on the show.
I was happy to hear, though, that if someone was replacing Greg, it was going to be you.
Flumazy Twitter is a different animal. If that person isn't in my Discord, I'm literally giving up on life because we're in a sim.
What? Wait, what?
Nothing.
What did you say?
Nothing. Someone in chat was talking about Brazilian soccer, and I just bet that exact team in Brazilian soccer. I assume they know that because they're good people. That's all.
You said the United Health killer was also in your Discord, right? The CEO, the killer.
No, I think that's your Discord, actually.
All right,
Just because we're doing a BOGO,
I didn't know it was I didn't know that was private information. All right. I heard you gave him shelter.
Oh, wow. Just keep going.
Discord.
I'm doing you a favor hopping on the show. This is the thanks I get. Thank you.
Hey, good evening. Welcome to the Stokastic.com NFL Live Before Lock Showdown Thursday night, kicking off Week 14. This is a good one, huh? Detroit Lions, Green Ben. At least you got a good one, right? Like, this is a heck of a game tonight.
I mean, I have my sights set on Northwestern State and Incarnate Word in college basketball, but I'll settle for this. It is a good game. NFC North up for grabs. Big money in Showdown too. You see some of these contests?
Yeah,
massive. Big ones.
Yeah, I will say too, I enjoy the bad games for Showdown. I actually do. Yeah. I mean, like a Raiders-Panthers Showdown, I'd probably enjoy more. But this is at least a good game to watch. Like, it's a quality football game. You got a 1-loss team, a 3-loss team. The Packers have lost 1 of their last 8, so they've won 7 of their last 8. And their only loss came against Detroit in Green Bay. So a lot going on here. Also, by the way, happy to have you guys with us. If you don't mind, take a single second this evening, atone for your sins, hit that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. Ben will tell you it's free and it goes a long way for us to feed the algorithm. We wouldn't ask otherwise, simply wouldn't. But the Detroit Lions, someone had commented on one of my videos when I was talking about the injuries. They're like, all of those injuries are old. It's not true. Like, yeah, sure, Anzalone and Hutchinson have been out. But the fact that, like, they're down another 3 players, DJ Reader, Josh Pascal, and Onwuzurike, can never pronounce that right. Onwuzurike. I always get that wrong. But all 3 of them started last week. They just didn't finish it. That's 3 more defensive linemen. I'd say that's a considerably big deal.
It's definitely a big deal. And the unknowns, I mean, obviously depending on how informed you are, but to me, that's where a lot of the difference can be made. Like, you lose Aiden Hutchinson. Most people who watch the NFL know who that is. But then you start losing guys that are just like random starters, depth pieces to the line. That's actually what kills your team when you just get absolutely decimated at one position. Lions are starting to get there. I mean, at some point, you can't just keep replacing guys on defense. I don't know if it's the tipping point yet, but I saw something. They've got the most guys on IR.
13.
That's massive. Like, you don't just, that's a full team right there. That's a big blow.
It's a lot.
It is.
I mean, it's a lot. And
I still like them. So
well, here's what I was gonna took the words right out of my mouth. First, you bet Detroit. I didn't bet Detroit in this.
I did. I bet. I'm just sticking with them.
I don't blame you. I sprinkled on the Packers, and it's kind of been my thing this year to just piss everybody off when I fade Detroit. Even though I've bet Detroit as many times as I've bet against them, people just every time I bet against them think, you know what I mean? They just, oh well, you can't do that. But they've cut. If you look at the games that they've covered, they've been good, but there's also a good amount of games they haven't covered. Point being, what I was going to say is, because of what you were just mentioning, even with all those injuries, they're still favored. They're still on Penny. Well, Penny's 3.5 plus 110, but they're really just hovering between 3.5 everywhere.
Yeah. I mean, listen, there's a ton of questions on both teams because part of the reason I got to Detroit, and it's not that I don't think they're a good team, but honestly, I mean, Packers, they've beat up on a bunch of mediocre. Every really good team they've played, they lost. All their losses are really good teams, and they basically haven't let any game slip. When you look at their schedule, I thought it was pretty telling. Like, they have beat all these teams that I would put in the middle to bottom half of the league. And then they lost to the Vikings, the Eagles, and this Lions team.
Yeah, I think that's probably pretty fair.
Like, what's their best win?
Although the Lions haven't had that tough of a schedule either.
No, but they're beating teams by like 50.
That is also true. Yeah.
Like, so they're just absolutely decimating teams. So we'll
Right.
see.
They're going in against bad teams and annihilating.
Yeah.
I get it. But listen, Thursday night, primetime divisional spot, in a way, battle for the NFC North, because if the Packers won this game, they're one win out. And the Lions still have, we're going to get into the slate right now, but just to set the table, the Lions still have the Bills, right? They still have the Vikings. They have and people will scoff at this. They have the Niners and the Bears, but that's in San Francisco and in Chicago. And Chicago gave them a run for their money last time. So that's a tough 4 games after this to close out the season.
Oh, no doubt. Lions going to have a lot of tests. And, I'm not the heat on the Lions. I'm not the biggest Lions fan out there. So we'll see. But yeah, ultimately, none of that matters. What matters is finding some value for Showdown tonight.
Let's dig into it. And I'll say this too. Whenever anyone all you hear about now is like the injuries to the defense. It's just like, it would just be perfect for the Giants to come out and win by 30, because whenever anyone talks so much about something that's holding a team back, in the media, then they just come out and they win. But whatever, besides the point, lots of stuff to get to today. I actually want to start at the quarterback position with you, because Matt Gajeski and I this morning on the strategy show talked about this a lot. And to get a third opinion or a second opinion on this, I think it'd be good, not just for me, but everybody watching. So I could see this going 2 ways. Both of these teams play at 2 of the slowest paces in the league, right? They are essentially tied for the 3rd highest run play percentage in football. They want, if either of these teams can run the football, they're going to run the football. Doesn't mean they won't pass, but if they'll run if they can. Do you think there's a script here where like Jared Goff and Jordan Love aren't in the optimal, either of them?
I mean, there's always a script, but not really, only because it's such a, I was just talking about this in my Discord about, someone was asking about the total, and such a delicate balance. Tempo wise, stylistically, they want to run the ball and milk the clock. But efficiency wise, the passing attacks are super potent. Like, Goff is first in the league in passing yards per attempt. He doesn't throw a lot, but when he throws, it's very effective. So even with that kind of mindset for these teams, I still think the quarterbacks are in a very good position. They just might be more efficient than throwing 45 times.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that, because Goff at home in the dome, it's like every game he's played has been in a dome this year too, by the way.
Yeah, they played outside once, and it was against
Green
this
Bay
team. Yep.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, remarkable stuff. Actually, no, Tampa's outside. Raymond James Stadium's outside, right? Oh, that was a home game.
Yeah, it was a home game.
Never mind.
Yeah, they've only played outside once.
One time. What? Talk about luck of the draw, huh?
Insane.
But Jared Goff has had 3 solid games this year from a fantasy perspective. That doesn't mean he has been inefficient, because he hasn't. And it speaks to what you're talking about. But it is pretty insane. Like, listen to this. This is DraftKings points. 17, 11, 37. That was against Jacksonville. 12, 9, 15, 18, 28, 27, 15, 13, 12.
Yeah.
A lot of 9 out of 12 games.
I mean, a lot of times he's just a true quarterback in terms of, like, he's the point guard that's, 1 for 3 with 12 assists, and he's just really controlling the game and distributing. I still think, though, even in some of those middling games in a showdown, he could still factor in pretty nicely. And I do think he's going to have I like Goff a lot today. I mean, it's not breaking news. It's a quarterback, but yeah, I feel very comfortable with him.
I for the most part, do too. Both of these quarterbacks have passing props north of 250. They both have passing touchdown props, sorry, north of, or at 1.5 with the over juiced. So if you actually start looking at those numbers, you go, all right, there's actually something here, right? Neither of them rush. It's 5.5 for Love, 2.5 rushing yards for Goff, but 51.5 point total. This one's even crept up throughout the last couple of days. It definitely feels like one of those spots where you got to get there. Now, do you feel the same way about captaining them, or is this are these largely guys that you'd prefer in the flex spot?
Yeah, I mean, with the captain situation, obviously, with the Lions, I always think it's kind of even both teams. I really shouldn't just say with the Lions, just because of the distribution. Like you do have a blueprint for that. I'm not saying 52-6 or whatever it was, but like the Jacksonville game, when you look at what Goff did, it felt like everyone scored. And he distributed beautifully, and that was the exact type of game that you want. Now, if he throws for 400 yards, yeah, sure. But at the same time, I still think more often than not, I'm looking at these as higher floor, lower ceiling options, and that there will more likely than not be a skill position player that I'd want as my captain who consolidates most of it.
Is Gibbs one of those guys? Because
Yeah.
at that price point, I mean, he's underpriced.
Gibbs, Jamison Williams as like a complete, what he does on the other side, like a Christian Watson, a home run hitter like that. Those are the type of
I think you could lump Jaden Reed into that as well.
yeah,
I mean,
Jaden Reed. I mean, he had a pair on Thanksgiving.
yep. Jaden Reed is, I wouldn't even say he's underpriced because he's also the type of guy that could go for like 5 fantasy points, right? He could have 3 for 20 and 1 rush for 15 or something. Like we've seen that, but he can also explode.
Oh yeah. I mean, it was on Thanksgiving, it was like he played amazing. He also had 3 receptions.
I
He just
know
happened to score twice. So
he's one of the stranger ones that you're going to come across because Jaden Reed could just kill you in a game like this.
yeah.
Either way. And the only thing that sucks is I know Dobbs is out, but Jaden Reed's volume is really low. I mean, you know how many times he's had more than 6 targets in a game this season?
Once.
Nailed it. You've been doing shows with me too long. You know how
Yeah.
I'm setting you up.
I knew it wasn't going to be another 0, and there's no way you'd ask if it was 2. So,
right.
like,
One time?
yeah.
One time in 12 games? So, like, I don't know. I'm almost just inclined to captain him and hope he has insane performance at that price point. But like, Jaden Reed's not the type of guy that I want my night to live or die on. I don't want to have like 70% Jaden Reed tonight, is what I'm saying.
No, definitely not. And it'll be interesting. We didn't, Dobbs, he missed obviously on Thanksgiving.
It's Dobbs.
Dobbs, I can't settle on Dobbs. I want to say Dobbs, and then I'm always like, it's Dubes, but it's not. Dobbs didn't pass, and we saw it, but let's keep in mind, they were basically in full control of that game the entire time. So if they play from behind, which is obviously possible tonight, do we now start to see the targets really, really go to Wicks, to Kraft, to Reed? Because we didn't really see that. Jacobs was in full control. They were in full control. Love threw the ball 28 times. That's not going to really do much, even if Dobbs was missing. Maybe that's not the case tonight, though.
Maybe not. And you know what? The last time they played from behind was against Detroit. Only 6 targets, but 5 for 113 for Jaden Reed.
Yeah, and in that game, Love threw the ball 39 times.
I said it this morning. You'll find this interesting. So, and this hopefully can help everybody kind of sort out how they're building their lineups, whether you're using the single lineup sim, making adjustments in the sims itself. That's what I'm doing. I'm running my last sim right now. If you were to rank all of his games by passing attempts, just from most to least, right? The 3 games with the most passing attempts, so there are only 3 losses on the season.
And that's where I go back to this kind of concept of stylistically and efficiency, but then the game script trumps it. Like they want to control tempo, both of the teams, but they're not saying, oh, we're just going to run. Like if the game devolves, both quarterbacks, I think, are very content saying, all right, let's bring them back and start throwing the ball.
And they can. Yeah. Also, Jordan Love struggles under pressure. The Lions, like one of the biggest deficits might be that they just can't get the same pressure right now with that D line the way it is.
Yeah, to me, I mean, I'm sure people have takes. To me, the Lions defense is a complete mystery. I think there's definitely a chance they get gashed. I also think there's a chance that they're completely fine and
I do too.
Really stifle him.
I do. This game could play out in so many different ways.
Yeah, it's a good alt game.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. This could be one of those, like clock draining methodical drives for both teams, right? And they just have success running the ball. Or it could be a shootout where you're just seeing like the Jamison Williams goes for a 60-yard touchdown, and then it comes right back with Jaden Reed for a 60-yard ender. Like, does that make sense? I feel like these teams both have a lot of weapons at their disposal and a lot of different ways that they can play. But also, if one team gets up or behind early, then it changes everything they want to do, and they're forced into come from behind mode.
Yeah. And again, it's different when you're talking about, not to take a shot for the Panthers to catch a stray on the show, but like there are some teams, they're forced to play from behind and they're not equipped to do that. These teams are so good. They can play from ahead. They can play from behind. They're equipped to kind of handle any game script. And I actually think that makes it more difficult because the game could play out in a lot of different ways.
Funny thing about the Panthers is they'd play from behind and somehow like Chuba Hubbard would still have 20 rushing attempts.
Yeah. Because again, when you're not equipped,
you
don't have choices.
So I just updated. I just reran with our I assume it's our last projection update. And you want to know what the biggest difference for me was from this morning when I ran it? It is I'm now getting a lot more Josh Jacobs at captain. Now I'm still getting a lot of Gibbs and a lot of Love and a good amount of Amon-Ra. The five guys I have in the double digits, all between 10 and 17%, starting from the top down. Jacobs, Love, Gibbs, St. Brown, and Goff. And then 8% Reed, which again, I feel good about. Perfectly fine with that. But a lot more captain Jacobs right now. I think some of that may be too. I've watched it throughout the day because I mentioned the over on my video this morning. His props have come up throughout the day.
Yeah, I'm not surprised by that. Again, he's someone I'm sure, obviously, they're going to look to lean on him, and he's Josh Jacobs. And it's not a Thursday game. I know everybody knows that, but this isn't a short week. So another 20 plus on the ground for him in terms of touches is definitely in the cards. And I don't think he's going to see 4 targets again. Maybe he will. But yeah, I mean, I'm a little under right now. I'm not saying I don't want him to play well because it's still Jacobs and he's in some key stuff, but he could be someone that obviously just breaks the slate.
By the way, when you say it's not a Thursday game, what you mean is these teams played on Thanksgiving.
Exactly. You get the full week. So a lot of times it's like, well, are they really going to deploy 25 carries for their workhorse back on a short week? It's not a short week.
Yep. It is a Thursday game. It's just not a short week.
Not a Thursday game mentality.
Got it. Which would be accurate. All right. Talk to me about the pass catchers for the Packers here. Reed, Watson, Wicks. There's no Romeo, Dobbs, Ben, Tucker Kraft. And then you even have a Bo Melton down there. I am curious though, like with all the lineups I've built, and I love some of these lineups that I'm looking at right now. And I ran the Sims. I'm looking at these lineups. I could close my eyes and pick a lot of these and go, ooh, they look good. What I mean is, I don't know how you know where I'm going with this. I don't know how low we have to go.
Product of 2 good teams. When you're funneled to one
2 good
game,
teams, but it's not like all of them are 10K plus. You have like highly involved guys between that 5 and 7K range.
2 good. Yeah, let me amend that. 2 good teams that are really so like the Eagles are a great team. But when the Eagles are on Showdown, it's like, well, I can't get to Saquon and A.J. Brown. I got to play Will Shipley in some of these lineups and stuff.
Britton Covey, yeah.
But like with these teams, the 4th and 5th option for these teams, they're good, prominent players that feature in. So you don't need to go to M. Woods or whoever the hell that guy was. Like your last, like I'm looking at some of my lineups, like Dontavian Wicks, last man in, like a very real player. Obviously the kickers factor in. It's not a slate that I personally am saying there's a guy at 400 or 800 that is only going to see a handful of snaps that I think factors in a lot. I'm just not getting there. These offenses are already too distributed to go deeper.
That really is a great point. A lot of times it's like stacked teams don't leave you with much. Like the old Kansas City squad with Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce, and who was the running back at the time?
For who?
For Kansas City when it was Hill and Kelsey. I guess for at a
Like
time it
Edwards
was
Hilaire?
Clyde Edwards. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But even he was expensive because they were so good.
Yeah. And I mean, the Chiefs always used to have like, I mean, it's still the same guys like Noah Gray, Blake Bell, Justin Watson types. But here it does seem like both teams are very, very, very. I mean, we just talked about Jaden Reed. When your alpha wide receiver only has one game with more than 6 targets, clearly you're a pretty deep team that can score in a variety of ways.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's going to play. I think it's pretty enlightening when you look at it that way. So with that in mind, then let's talk about these pass catchers for Green Bay. I mean, Kraft doesn't see a ton of volume, but he is targeted in the red zone and in the end zone quite a bit. I mean, Jacobs is already a great play. I don't think we need to dig too deep into that. They want to run the ball to him. And if you missed the strategy show this morning, I'll run it by you one more time. Over the last 7 games, he's seeing 66% of all rushing attempts for Green Bay. That's a lot. 76% of all running back rushing attempts. And on the season, 94% of goal line attempts have gone to Josh Jacobs. He's second in the league behind Kyron in rushes inside the 10 and the 5. So, like, if you're going to Jacobs today, you're the only downside there is that this Detroit defense is still good with that D line and they get out to an early lead. But even so, I still don't like if this game plays close to the spread, they want, like you said, they're going to want to give Jacobs 20 touches.
Definitely. And I mean, there's always equity that the game completely gets away, but I'd say that's pretty doubtful. So I don't think there's that many situations where you look at Jacobs and you're like, well, he got phased out to the point he didn't really have a fair shot.
So who are your favorite pass catching options from the Packers?
I mean, the easy answer is that it's very, very random. I mean, Ranch just said this. They're all kind of wide receiver 2s. That's pretty accurate in my mind.
I agree.
Like,
other than
I like Christian Watson.
Oh, for the Packers. Sorry. Yeah, for the Packers.
Yeah, for the Packers. Like, they all are very solid, but I don't know how they kind of separate. I will say, to me, Christian Watson's interesting because, again, it seems like his targets are highly volatile, where he's going over the top. Obviously, the A dot is longer, and you're talking about home run situations. And when you have that in the arsenal, like if he gets 2 deep balls tonight, even if they're incomplete targets, like I think that's a justification for him. And you got what you asked for. Like that's kind of how I look at it. And then I look at a guy like Wicks. To me, he's very stable. I don't have as much interest in someone like that as a captain as I would someone like Watson. And then Kraft, I'd say he has the lowest chance for major volume, but his touchdown equity is really solid because, as you mentioned, he's an extreme red zone target.
I was thinking about this too before we got started, that I don't usually there's always a couple spots I want to boost or cap or bring up or bring down. I'm not really seeing much of that today. I think everything looks, maybe it's because of what you're saying that, like, I don't really feel the need to boost Brooks or Wilson or try and get more of those guys or Bo Melton. You know, I don't really see it. I mean, look, I'd say the lowest I'd want to go where I'm like semi okay with it is probably Tim Patrick. Just because he's going to play like 75% of the snaps. And if this game shoots out, he's going to get a couple of opportunities. And in this offense, a couple of opportunities is like 15 opportunities for a Carolina Panther receiver.
It is also kind of crazy. Like, there's a couple guys on the Lions that it's like, oh, I could take a crazy dart throw, but they're not too, like, I looked at Brock Wright, but he's $3,000. Like, if he was $200, I'd be like, you know what? Yeah. It's a totally different build. You're talking about, can I find $1,000 to get to Wicks or the Packers defense? Like, it's tough for me to justify that. You mentioned Patrick. I get it. And I think the Lions, if I was going to pay down for a dart throw, it would be more on the Lions side than the Packers side.
Patrick, right?
Yeah, Tim Patrick.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, that's the guy. But then you also have Laporta at 56. I know he hasn't been great, but he's still a guy. We saw it. He has 3 touchdowns over his last 3 games. Dontavian Wicks, as you mentioned, is just there for the taking. He's going to play a lot with Dobbs sideline. I keep coming back to it. I don't know how crazy we need to get here. And if you were to get crazy, feel free to tell me who it would be, but I don't. It feels like even if you get down to a crazy cheap guy and you jam the top options, you're still going to look at the lineup and go, well, there's 3 other top options I don't have. So, right? Like you're still trying to hit a moving target with that approach.
Oh, no doubt. I mean, it's that type of game. There's just not a lot of separation. Normally, again, this is just how I kind of feel like most showdowns go. You've got like a top tier of showdown guys that you want to get to, but you can't salary wise, and then you have some cheapies that you can get to. This to me is like one of the most balanced showdowns I can ever remember, where there's just how many players between, I don't know, mid 4s and 9K. There's like 10 players in there.
It's the most I've seen in a while. Yeah.
Like normally it's the made up quarterbacks. Like that's what Showdown does. You go to 6K and it's like, well, there are no players. It's literally all the backup quarterbacks. But here there are guys all over the place in that range.
Who do you think okay, here's a fun question. If we're talking about let's say kind of contrarian, and this doesn't mean cheap, but kind of contrarian captain plays. Are there any that you go, you know what? That's actually a spot that I'd like to get to more of. Because I'm looking at it now. I'm just looking at ownership, projected captain ownership on guys like Love is 10%, St. Brown 15%, Gibbs 11%. And then everybody else is relatively low. Like if you wanted to go Jameson Williams captain, 7%. Christian Watson, 5%. Laporta, 4%. Kraft, 3%. Even Wicks is 4% at captain. So many. David Montgomery, who we know, and you're the one that pointed out to me, the way that they operate those drives sometimes can just lead to a heavily skewed workload from one to the other, from one week to the next. Montgomery's at 7% captain ownership. No one's actually super chalk at captain.
That's the problem, though, because it's like, it's a weird game theory because normally you're like, all right, Lamar's going to be 35% owned at the captain spot.
Yeah.
Can I roll the dice with Zay Flowers? Can I roll the dice with Bateman? Sure. And you get huge leverage here. It's like, all right, the obvious captains are 11%. Can I roll the dice and get a guy at like 8% or 4%? Of course, absolutely. There's just not that big of a difference. It's almost dealer's choice. Like to me, Christian Watson, he's a very interesting captain. He's like 1/2 to 1/3 the ownership of the most owned captain, which is probably going to be St. Brown when you look at it. So it's a fascinating slate like that. You're not getting crazy ownership leverage.
So basically, like, what do you truly benefit by going to? Now, with that in mind, I still think even like Laporta, you could still justify that, right? Kraft, you could still justify that. But going wild at captain seems totally unnecessary.
I would not go wild at captain. Like I said, I barely, and I can't believe I'm saying this on a showdown, I'm barely going wild in the flex. Like my lineups consist of 6 like very solid players. And I've just, like most showdowns, I'm really trying to focus on weird permutations or of course leaving a bunch of money on the table.
Now that we're having this conversation, right, that Brock Wright's going to have like a 2 touchdown game and
yeah, he's going to throw one to Bo Melton on the other team. Like it's just going to be some type of
it's going
to Woods.
Right.
He's just going to be on the team.
Bo Melton's going to like get stuck on the field and they have to play him at corner for a play and they're going to, Dan Campbell's going to, and Ben Johnson going to run something wild. Yep. Brock Turner's going to be in the back. He's going to take the snap, throw it to Bo Melton, pick 6.
Yep. Yeah. Penny Sewell is going to take the snap and throw it, and Bo Melton is going to score on defense. And you'll need the double dip Packers and Bo Melton.
If you had a guy on defense like that played both sides of the field, like a Shohei Ohtani, right?
Like Travis Hunter next year.
Would he get 6 points for a pick 6? Like they do.
We'll find out next year.
Yeah. But you know what I mean? Like they do
they
on a
used to have that.
What do you mean?
They used to have, you'll remember this. There was a time when you had to pick a defensive player.
Yeah, of course. I know. I was in California with you
Oh,
and
yeah, yeah. That's
you
right.
won
That was
a
the same
showdown
day.
on the Eagles Vikings game.
Yeah,
And that was,
Patrick Robinson, I want
yeah,
to
that
say.
was, yeah, that was the
Yeah.
only year that
Yeah, they got
DraftKings
rid of
held
that.
showdowns where you had to play an actual IDP player. And what you had, that was like wasn't it 50K or something?
I forgot that was the same weekend. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And Patrick, someone on the Eagles had like a pick six. It was an absurd format. I kind of missed that.
And we were both happy because you won and the Eagles won for
Yeah, it
me.
was a good. And then the Jaguars blew it to the Patriots, but
Oh, that was the game where they had a huge lead and we're all saying,
yeah, and Gronk
don't
got a
take your foot
concussion.
off the gas.
No
That was the year where
QBs in
they
the
were
lineup.
like 12-4 and they
Mhm.
had a really good defense.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. All right, so what's the craziest you're willing to get at captain?
Oh, it's again, I think it has to just be some of these secondary pass catchers for these teams. And again, they're not crazy names, but you know that their floors are very, very tenuous. Like Jamison Williams, Christian Watson, guys like that. I think that you know what you're getting. The floors are bad, but I mean, we've seen it. Does Jamison Williams not have 100-yard bonus and a couple touchdown upside?
Damn right he does. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, which is why I have no problems, going to
I,
somebody like that.
I'm not doing this. I want to put that out there. So when people are like, why did you? If you wanted to get really crazy at captain in a game like this, I can't imagine many people are going to use a defense at captain. I don't see that
Oh,
build.
yeah, that's
If you really are like, you know what, I'm going for it and I'm building putting a defense at captain and hoping we saw it in the last game these guys played, there was a defensive touchdown. No one in there is going to do that. That'll be very low owned, but I don't see that build. I don't like that build.
that would be, yeah. I'll tell you what. Usually I end up on a lot of defense, kind of like regardless of the game. Not today. Why? It's exactly what we talked about with value at the cheap end. Are you going in a 51.5 total game? Are you going to, by the way, a not very cheap Lions team? Are you going to, what is it, $3,800 Packers or something? Or are you just going to go down to a Tim Patrick or up to a Dontavian Wicks or a Tucker Kraft or a Laporta? That's why. So I guess all you're saying, it's insane, but it would also be this might be the lowest owned we've seen defenses all year.
Exactly. And I still firmly believe that like it's mostly random, defensive core. The biggest problem with it is this is the type of game you could hit strike lightning and get one of those. And there's such balanced salaries that the defense still isn't needed. Like you could absolutely see that in this game. You know what I mean? If there's a lot of points where almost like the Broncos game, except then Jameis threw another one. And then, that changed things.
You're right though. This could end up right. You could have a pick six or a scoop and score or a kick return or something like that. And it doesn't matter because the game ends 30-28.
Yeah. A
Yeah.
lot of raw points.
And then they have what, 8 or 9 or something like that. And you go, well, what does it matter? Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. By the way, Wally Balls, thank you for gifting those memberships. Jordan, I hadn't looked at chat in a second. Do we have super chats?
Goody had one. I saw that.
Our boy. It's hard to do the super chat etiquette.
I was just about to say, if you don't have super chat etiquette on a showdown slate, I have serious questions. You're just asking about Sunday.
Yeah. How is you guys? How are you guys feeling about all 3 running backs in the lineup in DK 20 max? Assuming you're talking Jacobs, Gibbs, and Montgomery, which Goody, I know you are. I have no issues. Like I said, I don't think this is the way the game goes, Ben. But it wouldn't be the craziest thing that 2 of the most run heavy teams in the league, slowest pace. Like it wouldn't be the most shocking thing if Jacobs finished with 20 and Montgomery and Gibbs both had like 18 themselves.
No, listen, all 3 of them are playable. It's a weird build, and that's a good thing in Showdown. If that happens, I think that the defenses are probably, I'd say the game is more likely to go under just because it should be a slower possession game, less possessions to go around. and raw points will be more isolated because generally running backs take all their points. So it's a different build. It's definitely not my favorite build, but there's no doubt it's playable.
Right. It's not my favorite either, but it's also not out of the question. It's on the table.
No, there's
sure.
a path for that. There's definitely a game script where that comes to fruition.
All right. Get into some other good stuff here. And by the way, shout out, thank you, all 1,600 of you guys hanging out today. We appreciate it. Goes a long way. Thank you for. I know there's other channels out there. I don't think they do it as good as the Stokastic fellas. I hope not. If you think they do, tell us why. Maybe we'll make some changes. Alan, is Tim Patrick worth playing? Yeah, absolutely. Jim Parrish, what do you think of Laporta? Could he get 2 touchdowns? Yeah, he could. I mean, he's getting targeted a lot in the red zone, in the end zone. You should parlay Laporta. Ben, you should parlay do this right now. Tell me, does this show up? Does this show up in Portfolio EV? Parlay, same game. Sam Laporta 2+ touchdowns and under 2.5 receptions.
Go on. So you doing the reverse correlation? Smart.
The correlation is his only 2 receptions are touchdowns.
That's like the Jamison Williams, where it's like 70+ receiving yards, but under 1.5 catches. So you're basically saying he just catches an 80-yard bomb.
Will they even let me parlay? I'm not doing it.
I don't think to that extreme. You can do reverse correlation.
I know.
You'll get a nice price.
They're actually, by the way, I know some people shit on them, but there's actually some reverse correlations that make a lot of sense.
Yeah, if you have like a Shaheed type player, it's amazing no matter what show that I do. Football, any other, I mention that guy every show. But he is such a good example of that. MVS is like that.
MVS is another one.
I mean, the guy on Tennessee, but that guy's an anomaly.
Nick Westbrook-Akina. Yeah, that's a good one. Oh, by the way, tomorrow's our last day for the Portfolio EV sale, Cyber Week.
Cyber Week, 70% off. If you haven't, I know a ton of you have already taken advantage. I've seen our Discord has just been obviously exploding with a lot of new people, trying it out, making money, having fun, setting up their portfolios. But if you haven't, the weekend with the college bowl games, with the NFL, NBA every night, NHL every night, come and give it a try. It's changed the way people are betting. It's changed the way both me and Lofty bet every single day. So 70% off. You have a huge runway to make a lot of money and just change the way you bet sports.
Yeah, it is 100% changed the way I bet them. And it's made me 1,000 times more profitable in the process. So if you ever want to do it, check out the mass entry tool. I mean, if you love DFS, but you like making money just as much, the mass entry tool lets you load up to 20 bets into your bet slip with one click of a button. You just put your wagers in, boom, get over 100 bets in literally less than 30-minute time commitment per day. Doesn't affect my life. It's amazing. And then you just wake up to more money. November ended a little rough, but I woke up to a nice $1,100 profit yesterday. 41 and 24 on the EV tools yesterday.
Yeah, but the key there is 65. That's the number. 65 bets right there. Yep. You're talking about. You're not betting 3 things and then sweating them out. You know, there's something to that. I obviously in Discord do that. We're talking about getting down a lot of plus EV positions over and over and over. I mean, look at Greg's bankroll challenge. Yep. Turned $100 into 570, and he's not even a month into it. Really, really cool returns with compounding interest.
Well, the other thing too, you said 65, but it's also not quitting when you have a few bad days, because sometimes it's easy to go, well, I'm not originating these plays. I'm just taking them from the tools. I don't trust it. I don't this. I had a few bad days. You bet through the bad days, man. I'm telling you, if there's one mistake I made early on was like, oh, I don't want to keep betting through these bad days. And I did, fortunately. But if you don't, like you could be leaving so much money on the table. Anyway, links in the description if you guys want to check it out. By the way, hit Ben or me up. We'd be happy to help you get on your feet. I just threw out a thread on Twitter, like all the mistakes that I made early on that you should avoid. That'll go a super long way for you, I promise. But yeah, it's down there, 70% off. Click that link. Use the promo Cyber Week at checkout. Tomorrow's the last day you can do it. 70% off. Gets you your first month for $30. So yeah, man. Hit us up in the Discord. My DMs are always open. And we appreciate you. Jay Jones said, some of us have to make money betting to support the DFS habit. Yeah. Yeah, with the ebbs and flows of DFS, you're damn right. Anyway, check it out. Hit us up, and we'll get you in. All right, let's go to Brandon Wagner, Super Chat. Best in the biz, hands down. Thanks, brother.
Good
Appreciate
people.
you guys. Sim's really been helping me with my NFL the past few months since getting them. Obvious when I build NBA lineups without them. Yeah, it's a true game changer for sure. But thanks for the Super Chat, man. Where do you want to go? Where do you want to go next here?
Kickers.
All right. I mean, I think we probably should, right? And you're not going to get as many kickers again on a super high total slate like this.
No, you're not. And so it's just another extension of kind of the same themes, which is just high octane offenses, volatile. If the running backs have a ton of success, most of that, there's raised touchdown equity and it does hurt the kickers a little bit. But there is always that but. What if they stall on the red? I mean, you're indoors, obviously. Like if you're a Green Bay kicker, you must love this game, no doubt about it. I'm not getting to a ton of the kickers. I will say I did get to some Detroit, just because again, potent offense, they're gonna have chances. It's just tough because when you have a coach that takes your finite amount of opportunities away. And Dan Campbell has shown the most willingness to do that. That's always really tricky. Like you need them to not go for it on fourth.
Yeah, it's Money Maj said Dan Campbell ain't kicking when the playoffs.
Yep.
Yeah, it's similar. It's very similar to Nick Sirianni as well. Like Sirianni, how many times he'll always go for it if it's fourth and short. Always.
You should.
Even when he shouldn't, he'll go for it though.
There's never a shouldn't. You should always go.
Well, you could be that high school coach.
Yeah, that guy's a genius. And he went to Presbyterian in college. And they literally were giving up 90 points a game, and then they were just like, "Yeah, we can't do this."
They were that. So wait, he kept not kicking.
Yeah,
or he kept not punting.
Yeah, he would not punt. Only onside kick. He tried to install some type of rugby off. That guy is a genius.
You're telling me though that they were getting beat by like 100.
I mean, they didn't have the players. You need players. I don't care what you run if you don't have the players.
Well, yeah, but if you're doing that and you don't have the players, it's not very genius at all.
Well, that's true.
Like if you're the Panthers and you're just going for it on 4th and 8 at your own 10, because that's what he would do, right? He would literally never punt.
Yeah, no, there was no punting. I think he might. Yeah, it was. That guy is a genius though. Coach Kelly, shout out Coach Kelly.
The NFL would be insane if they just got rid of punting.
I just never understand why teams voluntarily give up the ball. Think about that. You're voluntarily giving the other team the ball. It's insane.
You can't be serious, right?
No, I'm dead serious. Obviously, there's certain times, sure. But if it's like 4th and 1, you should go. Always.
Oh, my God, yeah, of course. But if it's 4th and 7 at your own 15.
That's different. That's not what I'm saying.
And the team on the other side is like the New England Patriots. You punt that every single time.
This is what I'm talking about. And obviously, of course, this guy has a great name too. Aggressive Goose.
Aggressive Goose has been here forever, man.
Well, he's a very sharp person. If you don't have the players, why run a traditional offense and still lose by 100? You see?
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes. I've said that for years. Why would you?
I know.
That?
And for the most part, you'd be correct. That means like trying some wild shit.
Yeah, like the Wildcat.
And going for it on like 4th and 5 at the 40. Going for it on 4th and 10 at the 11 is not like, that's still not, that doesn't make sense whether you have the players or not.
No, there are limits, but some of these teams, I don't know why they just play. It's like, all right, we're a worse version of the team we're playing. Let's do exactly what they do, just slightly worse. Yeah, that's real smart. Real smart. Anyway.
But would you go for it from like, all right, so it's 4th and 20. You do have the players. You're at your own 15.
I mean, it would depend on, but
against the good football. Against the
probably
good
not.
First drive of the game.
No. There's just little things in sports that I don't understand. That teams don't like in basketball, particularly in college basketball. Why teams don't foul when they're winning? If the other team, if you're in the double bonus and they're in the single bonus, Like, just leverage the game out that way. Just foul them. Don't let them shoot a three. And if they make both, you get the. We don't have time for this, but trust me, I've got ideas on that.
By the way, for what it's worth, we're on the same side. I'm just saying there are real limitations to
There's
something
always, but the Lions are pushing those limits, and to bring it back here,
they should be. They have the
should be.
guys,
Yeah.
and they can execute absolutely, and they have a good defense. So that all plays in it. Like they know they can get stops as well, right? Like they can clearly get stops. Anyway, a couple of other spots I wanted to get into here. David Montgomery. What do we do with David Montgomery? Normally, if this was priced the way when I say the right pricing, I mean the type of pricing that's going to, equally entice, have these guys like equally enticing. There's always going to be guys that are much more popular, obviously. But what I'm saying, and this is shocking to me, the fact that Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery are so close in projected ownership really surprised me, right? 39 to 31, Gibbs, Montgomery, respectively. I really thought that Gibbs would be like 15 to 20% more popular than Montgomery at essentially the exact same price point.
Let me ask you this. Do you think part of that is because of some people with the noise that Gibbs could be in the doghouse?
With the whole plays thing?
Yeah.
Maybe, but probably not. Like I'm not convinced that Dan Campbell has those diva type mentality thing. Like where, like, I don't think he's catty like that. And here's what I mean. He came out and said, basically, we don't give a shit. Like, give him our whole playbook. Is he just saying that to save face? Is he just saying that, for bluster? Maybe. But I kind of always have taken him as a bit of a straight shooter, right? Like he's the type of guy that goes out there and plays his starters deep into week 18 when they've already had things locked up and gets Sam Laporta hurt.
Yeah, smart.
He's just, I have trouble believing now, if you think that's how it plays out, then Montgomery should be one of your, not you, but Montgomery should be one of your favorite players on the week at 8,600.
I mean, I definitely don't. I'm on Odd Chopper right now. Carries 13.5 for Montgomery, 12.5 for Gibbs by the books. And to me, that's not out of the ordinary. I don't think that. I do wonder how many people are maybe a little apprehensive to go to Gibbs relative to how popular he could have been, maybe.
I could see it. Yeah, I could see. Someone mentioned his commercial where he's reading where he has the menu, right? Where he has the menu.
Yeah,
that's the Applebee's commercial, right? I think it's Applebee's. Montgomery's really good though, is the thing too. Like
really good.
I'm very happy to get to Montgomery. I just thought that this might actually be a spot that I would be getting overweight to him because I assumed that he would be less popular than Gibbs by more than 8%.
And that's where these things make a difference. I'm not saying like I hate the Montgomery play, but he got squeezed for me because if you told me relatively straight up I could just have Gibbs or Montgomery without any major differences, I would take Gibbs. And that's kind of what I'm not saying it's exactly the same, but there's not, he's quadrupled the ownership and $2,000 more expensive. That's just not what it is.
Right, but with that thinking that you just had there at the same price, you would think Gibbs would be higher.
You would think, but he's not. That's what I mean.
Exactly. Which is going to naturally lead you to more Gibbs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for me, that pushes Montgomery down because he's getting boxed out by his teammate, by Knuckles or Sonic, whoever he is.
Yeah, don't get me started with that shit. How about, we talked about Jameson. I think Jameson and Jaden Reed are in the similar bucket. They get things done in different ways, but they both could give you 7 or 27 potentially. Like they're, to me, very similar, not players, very similar DFS plays week over week.
Yeah. The difference is the Lions have a St. Brown and the Packers just don't have that. Like,
correct. But also it hasn't mattered. Like they just, so, all right. Do the Lions spread the ball around? Yeah. But you're still looking at a guy in Jamison Williams who, I mean, he's got to be averaging like 6, 7 targets on the season, right? Where like he probably has the same volume on the season as Reed.
Yeah. I mean, he keeps getting, I don't even know because he just like, he's suspended. He does a lot of bizarre stuff. But no, I was just saying St. Brown is kind of in a tier of his own, but the rest of these guys are very comparable.
Yeah, definitely. But I just mean like Jameson could have 4 for 120 and a touchdown like he did against Jacksonville. It's like, God, that's all I needed.
There you go. Sam Laporta under 3.5 catches with 2 TDs, 85 to 1.
I saw it on FanDuel at I should bet it. Oh my God. Did people bet because it was at 11,000 to 1. Now it's at 900 to 1.
No, not 900 to 1, 90 to 1.
Sorry, 90 to 1.
Okay, I was gonna say if it's 900 to 1, I'm literally.
It was at so what 110 to 1?
1.
And now it's at 90.
Moving those lines. See,
What's
that's
that?
where you bet it. You tell everyone. Then it moves, and then you say, "Look, I got closing line value," even though you artificially created it. Not how it works, but why not?
It's so easy to artificially create that.
Yeah. Oh, look at this move. It's like, yeah, you bet. The steals prop for the 12th man.
Right. You bet the most obscure shit ever. And yeah, exactly. Anyway, that would be hilarious if it happened though. That would be something else, wouldn't it?
He's just gonna have 4 touchdowns on 4 catches.
Oh, that would I didn't think about that. Yeah. Laporta's fine now. And so St. Brown, Matt and I went back and forth on this a little bit today because we still got 1,300 people with us. Maybe they can make a few adjustments before we go. As always, appreciate you guys. If you are leaving, tap that thumbs up before you go. Just a little subtle reminder here goes a long way. We got 257. Before you go, tap it, say goodbye. You don't even have to say goodbye. That can be your goodbye. Anyway, with St. Brown, it's amazing because you look at him and you go, well, he doesn't get elite volume, right? That's the kind of the first thought you would think of. If you look at it, it doesn't. This guy is so efficient with Jared Goff that he's 3rd in the league in receptions.
Yeah. Again, Goff is 1st in the league in passing yards per attempt. So he doesn't need to throw the ball 40 times because when he throws it, he's averaging almost a first down per attempt. Insane.
It's nuts. But like you're still talking about a guy that's as good as he is, and it's because he's catching all 7 of his targets with a touchdown every week.
Yeah, you can. It's always a balance. And the thing about St. Brown, why I don't worry about that, in the right games, and I know they played in a lot of close games, so I'm not saying it's just like blowouts, but like he still has 15 target upside, where most of these other guys realistically just simply do not.
Right. And we've seen it.
Yeah, he had 19 in the game, and like it was out of nowhere, and that's not going to happen again, but he's still the guy.
Who's your favorite captain today?
I'll say it like this. I think when you take all the players, Gibbs, but if you want a sneaky one, Christian Watson.
Who's your favorite off the wall play at captain? I'll go Reed. And by off the wall, let's just say single digits because there's no real off the wall plays. I go Reed or Williams, Jameson.
Honestly, Christian Watson.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I like Jameson too, but yeah, I think one of these receivers, I mean, it makes sense in a game like this. Someone is going to have a long touchdown catch, and I think it's going to be one of these middling receivers.
All right, last one. Ready? Your favorite type of build for tournaments?
My favorite type of build for tournaments is take one of these middling skill position players and put them at captain and then reverse it the other way with a 4-2. So what I mean by that is go like Watson and Love with 4 Lions, Watson as the captain.
I like that.
Where like Gibbs Goff plus 4 Packers. Again, I'm talking about aggressive tournament builds, but that's the type of thing where it's like I'm not leaving my captain out to dry. He still has his quarterback, but then I'm onslaughting the other team around them. That's a weird build.
I enjoy it. X Swaggy Pete said the disrespect on Reed is insane. No, I honestly think he's a little bit higher owned than he should be at captain, if we're being honest. Like, I don't know. Isn't that weird that every time you and I do a show and the Packers are on the slate, there's always comments and, you know, no shade towards Swaggy Pete or anyone, but like, there's always comments about how not us, but just, well, sometimes me, like how Jaden Reed's getting disrespected. But then you kind of look at it and you go, yeah, he could be the best play on the slate, or he could be the guy that you really, really hope you didn't have tonight at his price point.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm not. Yeah, I maybe I just by having what I thought is a normal view of Jaden Reed, I am a hater on him because I think he's fine, but I don't think he's honestly that like he's just not in that role.
That's kind of how he's been all season. Like even when we're talking,
that's what I mean. It's not his fault.
No, it's just who he is. It's how they're using him, and he's not even like a 90% snap share guy. So you hope he breaks one. You hope he break. It's the same thing as Jamison Williams, man. It really is. You need him. You need something
like that. Both tight ends are like that too.
Yeah,
like you just got to fall in the end zone.
Which is why we don't have to go crazy cheap today. Cue the 3 Bo Melton touchdowns and 2 for Brock Wright.
Yeah, it's just weird because that's the thing. That's what's funny about Reed. And I know we got to go, but like he's due for a blow up. He just scored twice in the last game, but it like still wasn't a quote unquote blow up because he only had 3 catches.
Right, and they were both touchdowns were inside the 10, weren't they?
He had a 1-yard touchdown and then he scored on like a weird bubble screen.
Right.
And I needed him. That was super helpful for me, but he wasn't exactly like dominating the game. He maximized his couple catches.
I was gonna say, I hope Reed has a good game tonight. Yep. I have a decent amount of him. Anyway, hey, thanks for filling in, man.
Of course. Always happy to hop on. I don't get to do these shows a ton. I hope. Friends, I'll just say, I've been spending most of my time over on the Odd Chopper side, so I just want to say one last reminder for people that do bet sports, or if you just want to see what we've got going on over there, head over to oddchopper.com. There's a giant banner with those deals going on, and I hope to see you in there as well as here on Stokastic. So appreciate everybody.
The link's right there in the description. Yeah, click it. Cyber Week, all one word, 70% off, on your way to rolling in the profits. Anyway, good luck tonight, guys. Let's enjoy this game, and Ben and I'll see you back here Sunday for week 14. Another 10-game slate, I think. Dude, there's 6 teams on a week 14 bye.
That's going to be a while. I don't know if I'm going to survive Saturday, but.
All right. Well, I hope you do. And if that is the case, I'll see you and Jordan on Sunday. Appreciate you guys. Strategy show, sim strategy show, tournament strategy, important one tomorrow. Heading us into week 14, 10 o'clock Eastern time, right here on the Stokastic YouTube channel. Peace.